What artists actually see, beyond skin, anatomy, gesture, balance, emotion, and character. Part 1. Learning to see beyond the surface. Most people believe artists see the world exactly the same way everyone else does. After all, artists have the same eyes. They walk through the same streets. They look at the same people. They live in the same physical world. Yet ask an artist to describe what they see, and the answer may surprise you. When most people look at a human figure, they immediately recognize a person, a face, a body, a familiar image. The brain quickly identifies what it is seeing and moves on. Artists do something different. Before they see a person, they often see relationships, shapes, movement, light, balance, emotion, visual rhythms, patterns that most people overlook. This difference is not a gift that artists are born with. It is a skill developed through years of observation. Artists train themselves to slow down, to look longer, to notice details hidden beneath first impressions. And nowhere is this more evident than in figure art. To understand what artists actually see, we must move beyond the idea that artists are simply drawing bodies. Because they are not. They are studying something much deeper. They are studying humanity itself. The difference between looking and seeing. There is an important distinction between looking and seeing. Looking happens automatically. Seeing requires attention. Most people glance at a person for a fraction of a second. The brain instantly identifies age, gender, clothing, expression, and perhaps a few other details. The process is efficient because it helps us navigate daily life. Artists deliberately interrupt this process. Instead of asking, "Who is this person?" they ask different questions. How does the weight of the body rest on the feet? How does the light wrap around the shoulder? What emotional quality exists within the pose? What visual story is being told? The artist's attention shifts from identification to observation. The figure becomes a landscape of information. Every curve, angle, shadow, and gesture becomes meaningful. This is why artists often spend hours studying a single pose. The longer they observe, the more they discover. What appeared simple at first becomes increasingly complex. The human figure reveals endless layers of information. Beyond skin and anatomy. Many people assume artists are primarily interested in anatomy. Certainly anatomy is important. Understanding muscles, bones, and structure helps artists create convincing representations. But anatomy alone does not create great art. A medical textbook may contain accurate anatomical information. Yet few people would describe it as emotionally moving. Artists are searching for something beyond anatomy. They are searching for presence. The difference is profound. Anatomy explains how the body is built. Presence reveals what it feels like to be human. Artists learn that a figure is more than skin covering muscles. The body carries evidence of a life lived. Age leaves traces. Experience leaves traces. Emotion leaves traces. Even posture reveals hidden stories. A person who has spent years working physically often moves differently from someone who has spent years behind a desk. A confident person stands differently from a nervous person. A joyful person carries energy differently than someone experiencing sorrow. These subtle qualities fascinate artists. Because they transform the body from an object into a story. The artist is not merely studying form. The artist is studying life. The invisible language of gesture. If anatomy provides structure, gesture provides life. Gesture is one of the most important concepts in figure drawing and painting. Yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Many beginners focus on details. They become concerned with fingers, facial features, and precise measurements. Experienced artists often begin elsewhere. They begin with movement. They begin with gesture. Gesture is the overall action of the figure. It is the visual expression of energy. A person leaning forward communicates something entirely different from a person reclining comfortably. A figure reaching upward suggests aspiration. A figure curled inward may suggest reflection or vulnerability. These messages are communicated instantly. No words are necessary. Artists learn to capture this invisible language. In many cases, a simple gestural sketch can feel more alive than a highly detailed rendering. Why? Because life is movement. The human body is never truly static. Even in stillness, there is potential energy. There is balance. There is intention. Artists train themselves to recognize these qualities. The result is artwork that feels alive rather than merely accurate. Why great artists draw the same figure repeatedly. To an outsider, life drawing classes may appear repetitive. The same subject. The same body. The same process. Yet artists understand something important. No two observations are ever identical. The body changes constantly. The light changes. The mood changes. The observer changes. An artist who studies the same model for years continues discovering new things. Because observation itself evolves. As skill increases, awareness increases. Details once invisible become obvious. Relationships once overlooked become essential. The figure becomes an endless source of learning. This is one reason artists rarely feel bored studying the human body. The subject continues revealing new information. The deeper they look, the more they see. And the more they see, the more fascinating the figure becomes. The artist's search for meaning. Ultimately, artists are not simply recording appearances. Photography can record appearances. Artists seek meaning. A figure standing near a window may become a meditation on solitude. A seated figure may suggest contemplation. A simple gesture of the hand may communicate tenderness, anxiety, hope, or uncertainty. The artist learns to recognize emotional possibilities hidden within ordinary moments. This ability transforms observation into expression. The artwork becomes more than a visual record. It becomes an interpretation of experience. Viewers respond because they recognize something familiar. Not merely a body. Not merely anatomy. But a reflection of human life itself. And that is what artists actually see. Not just muscles. Not just skin. Not just form. They see stories. They see emotions. They see connections. They see the invisible qualities that make each individual unique. The human figure becomes a doorway into something much larger than physical appearance. It becomes a way of understanding what it means to be human. And for artists, that exploration never truly ends. What artists actually see, the hidden language of the human body. Part 2, balance, movement, and energy. When most people look at a human figure, they see a person standing, sitting, walking, or resting. Artists see something very different. They see forces. They see balance. They see movement. They see invisible energy flowing through the body. This may sound strange at first. After all, energy cannot be seen directly. Balance has no color. Movement often exists even when a figure is standing perfectly still. Yet these are among the first things experienced artists notice. In fact, many artists believe that balance and movement are more important than anatomy itself. A figure with perfect anatomy but poor balance feels lifeless. A figure with strong balance and convincing movement can feel alive even if the drawing is simple. This is one of the great secrets of figure art. Life comes from energy. Not detail. Not perfection. Not technical complexity. Energy. And artists spend years learning how to recognize it. The body is never truly still. Imagine a person standing quietly in a room. At first glance, they appear motionless. Most observers would describe the figure as still. But artists know something else is happening. The body is constantly making tiny adjustments. Muscles are working. Weight is shifting. Breathing changes posture. Balance is being maintained every second. The figure may appear still, but the body is alive with activity. This is why experienced artists often say there is no such thing as a completely static pose. Every pose contains movement. The challenge is learning how to see it. Artists train themselves to notice subtle weight shifts. They observe how one hip rises slightly higher than the other, how one shoulder carries more tension, how the spine responds to gravity. These details reveal the hidden mechanics of the body. The figure becomes a living structure rather than a frozen object. Understanding weight. One of the most important concepts in figure drawing is weight. Every person occupies physical space. Every body interacts with gravity. Every pose requires support. Artists constantly ask themselves, where is the weight? How is it being carried? What parts of the body are supporting it? These questions help create believable figures. Consider someone standing on one leg. Immediately the entire body begins adjusting. The pelvis tilts. The spine curves. The shoulders compensate. Balance is maintained through a chain of interconnected relationships. Artists study these relationships carefully. They understand that a convincing figure is not created by drawing individual body parts separately. It is created by understanding how the entire structure works together. Everything affects everything else. A shift in the foot influences the leg. The leg influences the hips. The hips influence the spine. The spine influences the shoulders. The shoulders influence the head. The body is a system. Artists learn to see the system rather than isolated parts. The magic of contrapposto. One of the most important discoveries in the history of figure art occurred in ancient Greece. Artists developed a concept known as contrapposto. Although the word sounds technical, the idea is simple. Contrapposto occurs when the body's weight rests primarily on one leg. This creates a natural asymmetry. One hip rises. One shoulder lowers. The spine adjusts. The figure appears more relaxed and alive. Before this discovery, many figures appeared rigid and symmetrical. Afterward, artists realized that natural balance often involves imbalance. The body is most convincing when it is responding to gravity realistically. This insight transformed Western art. Even today, artists continue studying contrapposto because it reveals fundamental truths about movement and balance. The lesson extends beyond art. Life itself often depends on dynamic balance rather than perfect symmetry. The body teaches this lesson every day. Gesture, the path of movement. Earlier we discussed gesture as the visual expression of energy. Now we can explore it more deeply. Gesture is not about details. It is about direction. Artists often begin a figure drawing with a few simple lines. These lines describe the flow of movement through the body. The artist is asking, where is the energy traveling? What is the dominant action? What emotional quality does the movement suggest? A dancer leaping across a stage creates a different gesture than a person sitting quietly by a window. A runner has a different gesture than a sleeper. A child has a different gesture than an elderly person. Gesture reveals the character of movement. Without gesture, figures become stiff. With gesture, they become alive. Many master artists spend more time studying gesture than studying anatomy. Because gesture captures the essence of a pose. Anatomy explains structure. Gesture explains life. Rhythm in the human figure. Artists often speak about rhythm. This surprises many people because rhythm is usually associated with music. Yet visual rhythm exists everywhere. The human figure is full of repeating patterns and flowing relationships. Curves connect to curves. Angles connect to angles. Lines echo one another. The body creates visual pathways that guide the eye. Experienced artists learn to recognize these rhythms. A figure may contain a beautiful sequence of movements beginning at the head, traveling through the spine, and continuing through the legs. These visual rhythms create harmony. The viewer may not consciously notice them, but they feel them. Great figure artists understand that rhythm influences emotional response. Just as music can feel calm, dramatic, energetic, or peaceful, visual rhythm can create similar effects. The body becomes a form of visual music. Artists learn to listen with their eyes. # movement frozen in time. One of the greatest challenges in art is representing movement within a still image. A painting does not move. A drawing does not move. Yet some artworks feel full of motion. How is this possible? The answer lies in anticipation. Artists learn to capture moments that suggest what came before and what may happen next. A figure leaning forward implies future movement. A raised arm suggests action. A twisting torso indicates energy passing through the body. The viewer mentally completes the motion. The artwork becomes dynamic despite remaining physically still. This ability is one reason figure art remains so powerful. The body constantly communicates action and intention. Artists learn to preserve these fleeting moments. The result is artwork that feels alive long after the pose has ended. # energy and presence. Perhaps the most difficult quality to describe is presence. Every experienced artist knows it exists. Yet defining it can be challenging. Presence is the feeling that a figure truly exists. It is the sensation of life within the artwork. Two drawings may contain identical anatomy. One feels alive. The other feels empty. The difference is often presence. Presence emerges from many factors working together. Gesture, balance, movement, rhythm, observation, emotional understanding. When these elements align, the figure begins to feel real. Not merely accurate. Alive. Artists spend years pursuing this quality. Some spend entire careers trying to understand it. Because presence cannot be measured. It can only be felt. And viewers respond to it instinctively. # why beginners focus on details. Most beginning artists make a common mistake. They focus on details too early. Eyes, fingers, hair, tiny features. These details seem important because they are highly visible. Yet experienced artists often delay details until much later. Why? Because details cannot save a weak figure. If balance is wrong, the drawing feels wrong. If movement is missing, the figure feels stiff. If gesture is weak, the artwork lacks life. Strong foundations matter more than small details. This is why many art instructors encourage students to begin with simple gestures and large relationships. Life comes first. Details come later. The goal is not merely to draw a body. The goal is to capture a living presence. # learning to see like an artist. The remarkable thing is that these skills are not reserved for professional artists. Anyone can learn them. The process begins with attention. Slow down. Observe. Notice how people stand. Notice how they carry weight. Notice how they move through space. Notice how posture changes emotion. Gradually, the world begins revealing patterns that were previously invisible. A crowded street becomes a study of gesture. A coffee shop becomes a study of posture. A family gathering becomes a study of movement and connection. The artist's way of seeing begins transforming ordinary experience. The world becomes richer, more complex, more interesting. Because there is always something new to observe. # conclusion. What artists actually see goes far beyond skin and anatomy. They see balance. They see movement. They see rhythm. They see energy. They see the invisible forces that make the human figure feel alive. To most people, a person standing in a room may appear ordinary. To an artist, that same figure becomes a fascinating arrangement of relationships, movements, tensions, and possibilities. The body is never truly still. The body is constantly communicating. Every posture tells a story. Every gesture reveals intention. Every shift of weight creates meaning. Artists spend years learning this hidden language. And once they learn it, they never stop seeing it. The human figure becomes an endless source of discovery. Not because the body changes, but because understanding. What artists actually see, the hidden language of the human body. Part 4, Character and Personality in the Human Figure. When artists study the human figure long enough, something remarkable begins to happen. They stop seeing the body. They stop seeing the pose. They stop even seeing the model. Instead, they begin to see something much deeper. They see character. They see personality. They see a whole human story expressed without words. This is one of the most advanced stages of artistic perception. And it is also one of the most difficult to explain. Because character is not something you can measure. It is not something you can isolate in a single feature. It is not only in the face. It is not only in the body. It is everywhere at once. Character is not written on the surface. Most people think personality is mainly expressed through facial expression or behavior. But artists learn that character is not located in one place. It is distributed throughout the entire body. The way a person stands. The way they carry their weight. The way they occupy space. Even the way they remain still. All of these elements contribute to personality. Two people can have similar anatomy. Similar proportions. Similar age. Yet feel completely different when observed carefully. One may feel grounded. Another may feel light and restless. One may feel open and confident. Another may feel inward and reflective. Nothing has been said. But everything has been expressed. The body as biography. Experienced artists often describe the human body as a biography written in physical form. This does not mean literal history is visible. Rather, the body reflects lived experience. Years of movement shape posture. Habits shape alignment. Work shapes strength and tension patterns. Emotion shapes expression and gesture over time. Even unconscious behaviors become visible. A person who spends many hours sitting may develop a different spinal rhythm than someone who is constantly active. A person who is cautious may hold their body differently than someone who is expressive. A person who is confident in social situations may occupy space differently than someone who is reserved. These differences are subtle. But they accumulate. And artists learn to read them. The body becomes a record of life. Not in words. But in form. The silent language of personality. Personality in figure art is not loud. It does not shout. It does not announce itself. It appears quietly. In small decisions the body makes. How weight is distributed. How limbs are arranged. How the head tilts when thinking. How hands rest when not in use. These details form a silent language. Artists become fluent in this language through observation. They begin to notice patterns that most people overlook. Noticing becomes understanding. Understanding becomes expression. And expression becomes art. Why two figures never feel the same. Even when two figures are placed in identical poses, they never feel identical. Something always changes. A slight difference in posture. A subtle shift in balance. A variation in tension. Or simply the energy of the individual. This is because no two human beings are the same internally. And the body reflects that internal difference. Artists are sensitive to these variations. They understand that personality is not an overlay added to the body. It is part of the structure of the body itself. Every figure carries its own rhythm. Its own weight distribution. Its own emotional memory. This is why figure drawing never becomes repetitive for serious artists. The subject is always changing. Because human beings are always different. The subtle power of hands. Among all parts of the human body, hands are often the most expressive of character. Hands reveal habits. They reveal energy. They reveal tension and relaxation. They reveal confidence or hesitation. Even when the rest of the body is still, hands often carry personality. A relaxed hand suggests ease. A tightly held hand suggests control or tension. A gesturing hand suggests communication or openness. Hands are constantly communicating unconscious information. Artists pay close attention to them, because hands often tell the truth when other parts of the body are neutral. Walking, standing, and being. Character becomes especially visible in simple actions. Standing is not just standing. Walking is not just walking. Sitting is not just sitting. Each action contains personality. A person who walks quickly may carry urgency. A person who walks slowly may carry reflection. A person who stands firmly may carry stability. A person who shifts frequently may carry nervous energy. Even the way someone enters a room tells a story. Artists observe these everyday movements carefully, because they reveal what is constant in a person's nature. The artist's challenge: avoiding stereotypes. One of the dangers in figure art is simplifying people into categories. Strong, weak, confident, shy, serious, playful. But real human beings are more complex than labels. Artists must avoid reducing a figure into a stereotype. Instead, they must look for nuance. A strong figure may also be gentle. A quiet figure may also carry inner intensity. A confident posture may hide vulnerability. A relaxed posture may conceal focus. The challenge is to represent complexity honestly, not simplification. This is what separates lifeless drawings from meaningful ones. The role of observation time. Character does not reveal itself immediately. It appears over time. The longer an artist observes a figure, the more personality emerges. At first, only general impressions are visible. But as attention deepens, subtleties appear. Small asymmetries. Unusual weight habits. Repetitive gestures. Personal rhythms. These details accumulate into a full sense of identity. This is why life drawing sessions are often long. Time allows personality to surface. Character beyond physical appearance. One of the most important discoveries in figure art is that character is not dependent on physical attractiveness. A figure does not need to be traditionally beautiful to feel expressive. In fact, uniqueness often strengthens character. Unusual proportions. Distinct posture habits. Natural asymmetry. These features add individuality. Artists are not searching for perfection. They are searching for truth. And truth often lies in imperfection. This is why realistic figure art feels human. Because it embraces variation, not uniformity. The emotional weight of identity. Every human body carries emotional history. This does not mean visible stories are always clear, but they are often suggested. A certain tension in the shoulders. A habitual curve in the spine. A repeated way of holding the head. These are not random. They are formed through years of experience. Artists read these patterns intuitively. They sense emotional weight embedded in posture. This is part of what gives figure art its depth. It is not just about how a person looks now. It is about how they have lived. Why character matters in art. Without character, a figure is only structure. Accurate perhaps, but empty. With character, a figure becomes alive. It becomes memorable. It becomes human. Viewers may not consciously analyze why a figure feels real, but they sense it immediately. Because the body communicates identity directly. Character is what transforms observation into connection. It allows viewers to feel that a person exists beyond the canvas. This emotional connection is one of the most powerful aspects of figure art. Conclusion. What artists actually see goes beyond anatomy, gesture, balance, and emotion. At the deepest level, they see character. They see personality expressed through movement, posture, and presence. They see individuality written into the body. They see human identity revealed without words. To most people, a figure may appear as a single image. But to an artist, it is a living story. A record of experience. A reflection of inner life. A unique expression of being human. And this is why artists never stop studying the human figure. Because every body is different. Every presence is unique. And every figure holds a story waiting to be seen. In the final part, we will bring everything together and explore what master artists truly saw when they looked at the human form and why this way of seeing continues to matter today. What artists actually see, the hidden language of the human body. Part 5, what master artists saw. When we look at the great masters of art history, it is easy to focus on their finished works. The beauty of a Renaissance painting. The power of a classical sculpture. The emotional intensity of a Baroque figure. But behind every masterpiece lies something even more important than technique. It is the way these artists saw the world. Not just what they painted, but how they perceived reality itself. Master artists do not simply observe the human figure. They interpret it at a deeper level of awareness. They see structure, movement, emotion, and identity all at once. They see layers of meaning within a single pose. And this way of seeing transforms everything. Seeing beyond the obvious. One of the most important differences between beginners and master artists is attention. Beginners often see what is obvious. A head. A torso. An arm. A leg. Master artists see relationships. How the head connects to the spine. How the torso supports movement. How the legs balance the weight of the body. How one shape influences another. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is connected. This shift in perception is fundamental. Because once you begin seeing relationships instead of objects, the entire figure becomes a living system rather than a collection of parts. The mastery of simplicity. One of the most surprising qualities of great artists is their ability to simplify. Not in a careless way, but in a precise and intelligent way. They remove unnecessary information. They focus on essential structure. They reduce complexity to clarity. A few confident lines can express more life than a highly detailed drawing. A simple silhouette can communicate more emotion than a fully rendered figure. Master artists understand that clarity is not the absence of detail. It is the presence of understanding. They do not draw everything they see. They draw what matters most. Seeing the gesture first. Master artists often begin with gesture rather than detail. They search for the overall energy of the figure. The direction of movement. The flow of the pose. The emotional tone of the body. Before anything is defined, they capture the essence of action. This allows them to build drawings that feel alive from the beginning. Even if the anatomy is still developing. Even if proportions are not yet refined. The figure already feels correct. Because the energy is correct. This is one of the most powerful insights in figure art. Correctness is not only measurement. It is life. The importance of negative space. Another way master artists see differently is through negative space. Beginners focus on the figure itself. Masters also observe the space around the figure. The shapes between arms and torso. The gaps between limbs. The silhouette created by empty areas. These negative spaces are not empty in meaning. They help define structure. They reveal balance. They clarify proportion. By observing both figure and surrounding space, master artists gain a more complete understanding of composition. The figure is never separate from its environment. It exists within space. And that space is part of the design. Light as structure, not decoration. Many beginners think of light as something that makes a drawing look realistic. Master artists think differently. They see light as structure. Light reveals form. Light defines volume. Light creates clarity. Instead of treating light as decoration, they use it as information. Where light falls, form emerges. Where shadow appears, depth is created. Light becomes a tool for understanding the body, not just displaying it. This is why master artworks often feel so solid and dimensional. Because light is used intelligently, not superficially. The emotional intelligence of masters. Technical skill alone does not define a master artist. Emotional intelligence is equally important. Master artists understand how the human figure communicates feeling. They know how posture affects mood. How gesture influences perception. How subtle shifts in expression change meaning. They do not simply copy the body. They interpret emotional truth. This is why their figures feel alive. Because they are not only accurate. They are expressive. Emotion is embedded into structure. Economy of line and decision. Another defining quality of master artists is decisiveness. Every line has purpose. Every mark has intention. Nothing is accidental. This does not mean the process is rigid. It means the artist understands what matters. They do not hesitate endlessly. They commit to observation. They trust their perception. They refine rather than overwork. This economy of decision creates clarity. And clarity creates impact. The viewer can feel the confidence behind the work. Seeing time within the body. Master artists often see something that beginners overlook. Time. The human body is not static in meaning. It carries evidence of past movement. It suggests future movement. It exists in a moment that is part of a larger sequence. A gesture is never isolated. It is part of a story unfolding in time. A raised arm suggests what came before and what may come after. A resting posture suggests recovery from activity or preparation for it. Master artists understand that every pose is a fragment of life, not a complete statement. This awareness adds depth to their work. The unity of observation. Perhaps the most important quality of master artists is integration. They do not separate anatomy, gesture, emotion, and composition. They see all of these simultaneously. Structure and expression are not separate categories. They are one unified perception. This is what allows them to create figures that feel complete. Nothing feels disconnected. Everything belongs together. The body, the space, the light, and the emotion form a single visual language. Why mastery never feels finished. Even the greatest artists never feel that they have fully mastered the human figure. Because the subject is endlessly complex. Every new model offers new information. Every new pose presents new challenges. Every new observation reveals something previously unseen. This is why master artists continue studying throughout their lives. Not because they lack skill, but because the subject never stops teaching them. The human body is infinite in variation. And perception can always deepen. The true lesson of master artists. If there is one lesson we can learn from master artists, it is this. They did not see more than others. They saw more carefully. They trained their attention. They slowed down perception. They studied relationships instead of objects. They valued structure, movement, and emotion equally. They learned to see the invisible connections within the visible world. And through that way of seeing, they transformed ordinary observation into extraordinary art. Conclusion, seeing like an artist. Across all 5 parts of this series, one truth becomes clear. What artists actually see is not limited to the surface of the human body. They see balance. They see movement. They see emotion. They see character. They see relationships. And ultimately, they see meaning. The human figure becomes a language. A system of communication far deeper than appearance. To learn to see like an artist is not to become someone else. It is to become more aware of what has always been present. The body is always speaking. The only question is whether we are listening. Master artists listen with their eyes. And that is why their work continues to speak across time. Not because it copies reality, but because it understands it. And through that understanding, it reveals something timeless about what it means to be human. Thank you for listening. What artists actually see, the hidden language of the human body. Part 6, Why artists never stop studying the human figure. There is a question that many people outside the art world quietly wonder. Why do artists keep returning to the human figure again and again? Why not move on to other subjects? Landscapes. Objects. Abstract ideas. Digital experiments. New styles and technologies. Yet across centuries of art history, one subject continues to appear repeatedly. The human body. Not as repetition, but as discovery. For artists, the figure is never finished. It is never fully understood. It is never exhausted. Because every human body contains something new to see. And every act of seeing reveals something new about life itself. The human figure is infinite in variation. At first glance, the human body may seem familiar. 2 arms. 2 legs. A head. A torso. A shared structure across all people. But artists quickly discover that beneath this shared structure lies endless variation. No 2 bodies are identical in proportion. No 2 people carry weight in the same way. No 2 individuals move with the same rhythm. Even identical poses feel different depending on the person. This variation is not superficial. It is fundamental. It means that the human figure is not a fixed subject. It is a constantly changing one. For artists, this creates an endless field of study. There is always something new to observe. Always something new to understand. Every pose is a new problem. Another reason artists never stop studying the figure is that every pose creates a new challenge. A standing figure is different from a seated figure. A seated figure is different from a reclining one. A relaxed pose is different from a dynamic pose. Each position changes the entire structure of balance, gesture, and emotion. Artists are constantly solving visual problems. Where does the weight fall? How does the spine adjust? What happens to the limbs in this position? How does the pose affect emotional meaning? Because these questions change every time, the process never becomes repetitive. The figure becomes a continuous series of new situations to understand. The body as a living teacher. Many experienced artists do not see themselves as masters of the figure. Instead, they see the figure as their teacher. This may sound surprising, but it reflects a deep truth. The human body constantly reveals new information. Even after decades of practice, artists discover things they had not noticed before. A subtle shift in posture. A new understanding of movement. A deeper awareness of proportion. A different emotional reading of a familiar pose. The body does not stop teaching. And the artist does not stop learning. This relationship keeps the practice alive. It prevents it from becoming mechanical. It ensures that observation remains active and curious. Observation never becomes complete. One of the most important qualities of artistic perception is that it is never finished. A photograph captures a single moment. But artists look beyond the moment. They consider what led to it. They imagine what follows. They explore what it means. This means that observation is always expanding. There is always another layer to discover. Another relationship to understand. Another detail to interpret. Even a simple gesture can contain countless variations of meaning depending on context, light, posture, and emotion. This infinite depth is what keeps artists engaged for life. The emotional connection never repeats. Another reason artists continue studying the figure is emotional variation. Even if the pose is similar, the emotional presence is never the same. A model may appear calm on one day and thoughtful on another. A posture may feel relaxed in one moment and tense in another. The emotional atmosphere of a session can change everything. Artists are sensitive to these shifts. They do not just observe form. They observe presence. This emotional variability ensures that no two sessions feel identical. The human figure becomes a living emotional landscape. Always changing. Always revealing something new. The discipline of seeing. Art is often misunderstood as spontaneous inspiration. In reality, it is also discipline. The discipline of attention. The discipline of patience. The discipline of looking carefully, even when nothing appears to be changing. Artists train themselves to stay present. To resist rushing. To avoid assumptions. To observe what is actually there, not what they expect to see. This discipline transforms perception. Over time, the artist begins to notice details that others miss. Not because the world has changed, but because attention has deepened. Why technology has not replaced the figure. In the modern world, artists have access to countless tools. Photography, 3D modeling, digital references, AI-generated images. Yet despite all of this, the human figure remains central in art education and practice. Why? Because no technology fully replaces direct observation of life. A photograph freezes appearance. But it does not teach perception. Working from life engages the entire sensory and cognitive system. It trains the eye to interpret depth, movement, and presence in real time. It develops understanding rather than imitation. This is why figure study continues to exist even in a digital age. Because the goal is not just to reproduce images. It is to learn how to see. The figure as a reflection of self. There is another reason artists return to the human figure. It reflects something deeply personal. When an artist studies another human being, they are also studying themselves. Not in a literal sense, but in a human sense. Posture, emotion, movement, vulnerability, strength. These are shared experiences. By observing others, artists become more aware of their own humanity. The figure becomes a mirror. Not of appearance, but of existence. This connection gives the subject emotional depth that cannot be replaced by any other form. The mystery that never disappears. Even after centuries of study, the human figure remains partly mysterious. No matter how much anatomy is understood. No matter how much experience is gained. No matter how many figures are drawn or painted. There is always something that cannot be fully explained. Presence. Energy. Life. These qualities are felt rather than measured. And because they are not fully measurable, they remain endlessly fascinating. Artists return to the figure not to solve it completely, but to experience it again. And again. With deeper awareness each time. The artist's lifelong journey. For many artists, studying the human figure is not a phase. It is a lifelong journey. Beginners approach it with curiosity. Intermediate artists approach it with technical focus. Advanced artists approach it with understanding. But no matter the level, the journey continues. Because the subject continues to evolve in perception. The artist grows. The understanding deepens. The way of seeing becomes more refined. But the figure remains endlessly rich. There is always more to discover. Conclusion. Artists never stop studying the human figure because the figure never stops revealing itself. It is not a static object. It is a living subject of endless variation. It contains structure, movement, emotion, and identity. It reflects both individuality and shared humanity. And it constantly changes depending on how it is observed. The human body is not just something to draw. It is something to understand. Something to interpret. Something to learn from. And something that continues to teach even after a lifetime of observation. This is why the study of the human figure never ends. Because the act of seeing never truly ends. And in that endless act of seeing, artists continue to discover what it means to be human. Thank you for listening. What artists actually see, the hidden language of the human body. Part 7, Conclusion, the invisible way of seeing. Throughout this journey, we have explored what artists actually see when they look at the human figure. Not just skin. Not just anatomy. Not just shape or proportion. But something far deeper. Balance. Movement. Energy. Emotion. Character. And meaning. Each layer reveals a different level of perception. And when these layers come together, something remarkable happens. The human figure stops being an object. And becomes a living language. Seeing is not automatic, it is learned. Most people assume seeing is passive. You open your eyes. You see the world. But artistic seeing is different. It is active. It is trained. It is intentional. Artists learn to slow down perception. To resist quick judgment. To look beyond first impressions. To stay with what is actually present. This change in attention transforms everything. A simple human figure becomes a complex system of relationships. A moment becomes a story. A pose becomes a reflection of life itself. Seeing becomes understanding. The body as a complete language. One of the most important ideas in this series is that the human body communicates without words. It speaks through posture. Through gesture. Through balance. Through stillness. Through movement. Through emotional tension. This is a complete language. And like any language, it has structure. It has grammar. It has rhythm. It has meaning. Artists become fluent in this language over time. Not through memorization. But through observation. Through repetition. Through attention. And through sensitivity. Why this way of seeing matters. At first, this might seem like something only relevant to painters or sculptors. But in reality, it affects how we understand people. Because the human body is always speaking. In daily life. In relationships. In silence. In presence. When we begin to notice posture, gesture, and emotional expression, we begin to understand others more deeply. We also begin to understand ourselves more clearly. This is why figure study is not only about art. It is about awareness. The human figure as a mirror. The human body reflects more than appearance. It reflects experience. It reflects memory. It reflects emotion. It reflects identity. When artists study the figure, they are also studying humanity in its most direct form. Every line of the body carries information. Every posture suggests a history. Every movement reveals intention. This is why the figure has remained central in art for thousands of years. It is the most universal subject available. Because every viewer recognizes it. And every viewer relates to it. Why the figure never becomes ordinary. Even after thousands of drawings, paintings, or studies, the human figure never becomes repetitive for those who truly observe it. Because no two moments are identical. No two people are identical. No two emotional states are identical. Even silence is never the same twice. This endless variation keeps the subject alive. It ensures that artists never reach the end of discovery. They only go deeper. The final insight, life is what artists see. If there is one idea that connects everything in this series, it is this. Artists are not simply seeing bodies. They are seeing life expressed through bodies. Life is present in balance. Life is present in movement. Life is present in emotion. Life is present in character. And life is present even in stillness. The human figure becomes a reflection of existence itself. Not abstract. Not distant. But immediate. Visible. Present. # closing reflection. To learn what artists see is to learn a different way of paying attention. A slower way. A deeper way. A more patient way. It is the ability to notice what others overlook. To see relationships instead of objects. To feel emotion in posture. To recognize character in movement. To understand that nothing in the human body is random. Everything is expressive. Everything is meaningful. And everything is connected. # final conclusion. The human figure has always been at the center of art because it is at the center of life. It is where we recognize ourselves. Where we understand others. Where we express emotion. Where we carry experience. And where we communicate without words. Artists dedicate their lives to studying it not because it is simple, but because it is endless. The more they see, the more there is to see. The more they understand, the more there is to understand. And in this endless process of seeing, they discover something essential. To truly see the human figure is to see humanity itself. Thank you for listening. # what artists actually see, the hidden language of the human body. # Part 3, reading emotion through the figure. When most people think about emotion, they think about words. We say we are happy. We say we are sad. We say we are angry, tired, excited, or calm. But artists know something important. Emotion does not begin with words. It begins in the body. Before a person speaks, their body has already spoken. Before a feeling is explained, it is already visible. In posture. In movement. In stillness. In tension. In relaxation. This is why artists often say they are not drawing people. They are drawing emotional states. # emotion lives in the body first. Imagine a person sitting alone on a chair. No expression is exaggerated. No dramatic gesture is made. Yet something is still communicated. The shoulders may be slightly lowered. The head may lean forward. The hands may rest loosely or tightly. The spine may curve inward or remain upright. These small details change everything. To an artist, these are not accidental positions. They are emotional evidence. The body always reveals what the mind is feeling, even when the face tries to hide it. This is one of the most powerful insights in figure art. Emotion is not added to the body. Emotion is already inside it. The artist's job is to recognize it. # the face is not the only emotional center. Most people believe emotion is mainly expressed through the face. And it is true that the face is important. But artists do not stop there. In fact, experienced figure artists often look at the entire body before they even focus on facial expression. Why? Because the body is more honest than the face. A face can be controlled. A person can smile while feeling tired. A person can appear calm while feeling anxious. But the body is harder to fully disguise. The weight shifts. The posture changes. The energy leaks through. The body often tells the truth first. Artists learn to trust this truth. # the emotional vocabulary of posture. Posture is one of the richest emotional languages in the human figure. A slight forward lean can suggest interest, engagement, or anticipation. A backward lean can suggest distance, hesitation, or withdrawal. A closed posture may suggest protection or introspection. An open posture may suggest confidence or ease. Even small changes in the spine can alter emotional meaning completely. Artists study these differences carefully. They begin to see posture as vocabulary. Each position becomes a word. Each movement becomes a sentence. Together, they form emotional stories without speech. Stillness can be the strongest emotion. One of the most surprising discoveries in figure art is that stillness can be emotionally powerful. A completely motionless figure is never truly empty. Stillness can carry tension. Stillness can carry peace. Stillness can carry sadness. Stillness can carry thought. The absence of movement often draws attention to inner experience. When a figure is still, the viewer begins to imagine what is happening inside. What is the person thinking? What has happened before this moment? What will happen next? Stillness invites interpretation. And interpretation creates emotional depth. Artists use stillness deliberately to create atmosphere. Not everything needs action. Sometimes silence is the strongest expression. The body as a landscape of feeling. Artists often describe the human body as a landscape. This is not a literal description. It is a way of understanding complexity. Just like a landscape has hills, valleys, and flowing shapes, the human body has its own emotional geography. The curve of the back, the tilt of the head, the angle of the arms, the direction of the gaze. All of these elements combine to form emotional terrain. A gentle slope may feel calm. A sharp angle may feel tense. A compressed form may feel closed. An extended form may feel open. The artist reads these shapes like terrain, understanding how emotion travels through the body. Emotion is not one thing. Another important insight is that emotion is rarely simple. People are not just happy or sad. They are often both at the same time. They feel hope mixed with fear, confidence mixed with doubt, joy mixed with reflection. Artists understand this complexity. They do not reduce figures to single emotions. Instead, they observe subtle combinations. A figure may appear calm but carry tension in the hands. A figure may appear relaxed but show emotional weight in the shoulders. A figure may appear strong but reveal vulnerability in posture. These contradictions make human beings real. And artists strive to capture that reality. Micro-expressions of the body. Just as the face has micro-expressions, the body has micro-signals. Small shifts that reveal emotional truth. A tightened wrist. A slightly raised shoulder. A foot angled inward. A hand resting too firmly or too lightly. These details may seem insignificant to most viewers. But to artists, they are essential clues. They reveal what is happening beneath the surface. The body never lies completely. Even when controlled, emotion finds a way to appear. Artists learn to notice these subtle signals. And they use them to build emotional accuracy in their work. Light, shadow, and emotional mood. Emotion in figure art is not only about posture. It is also about atmosphere. Light plays a major role in shaping emotional perception. Soft light often creates calmness or intimacy. Strong contrast can create drama or tension. Shadows can suggest mystery, sadness, or introspection. Light can also isolate a figure, creating emotional focus. A single beam of light on a resting body can feel peaceful. A figure emerging from darkness can feel uncertain or powerful. Artists use light not just to reveal form, but to shape feeling. The figure and the environment work together emotionally. Why viewers feel emotion instantly. One of the most fascinating aspects of figure art is how quickly viewers respond emotionally. People often feel something before they understand why. This is because the human brain is deeply sensitive to body language. We have evolved to read posture, movement, and gesture instinctively. Before language, humans relied on visual cues to understand others. Artists use this natural sensitivity. They create images that speak directly to instinct. A viewer does not need explanation to feel the emotion in a figure. The body communicates immediately. And the viewer responds immediately. Emotion as universal language. One of the reasons figure art is so powerful is because emotion is universal. Cultures may differ. Languages may differ. History may differ. But emotional experience is shared. Every human being understands tension. Every human being understands calmness. Every human being understands vulnerability and strength. This is why a painting created centuries ago can still move modern viewers. The emotion is recognizable even when context is unknown. The body becomes a bridge across time. The artist's responsibility. Because emotion is so powerful, artists carry a responsibility. They are not simply copying bodies. They are interpreting human experience. A small change in posture can completely alter emotional meaning. A slight adjustment in composition can change the entire feeling of a work. Artists must be aware of this sensitivity. They are shaping how others feel. This is why experienced artists work slowly with emotion. They test. They adjust. They refine. They observe. Until the emotional message feels truthful. Not exaggerated. Not artificial. But real. Conclusion. What artists actually see is not only the physical body. They see emotional truth hidden within it. They see how posture reveals feeling. How stillness communicates thought. How movement expresses inner life. How light and shadow shape mood. The human figure becomes a living emotional language. And artists become translators of that language. To most people, a figure may appear simple. But to an artist, it is never simple. It is a complex emotional system constantly revealing what words cannot. In the next part, we will explore the final layer. How character and personality emerge from the human figure, and why every body tells a different human story.